Hey and welcome to a brand new YouTube video. I hope you're having a cracker of a day, and I want to talk about something. And now I have started putting the thing inside a little box next to me. I did it last week as well when we looked at Nathan Prescott and Stranger Things, but this time I want to go look at something slightly different. We will go back on to Stranger Things in a couple of weeks' time. I've got to do a little bit more research into that, but I want to talk about something else because I got advised to go look at a book recently. And this book is an absolute. I've only got a little bit away from it. It's How to Be Your Own Therapist. I've got it on Audible, and it was like $7.99 on Audible, so it wasn't too bad. I've just been listening to it this morning. I've been listening to it a little bit, and it just goes into a few little details which I think are really, really important along the lines. And yeah, it's been an interesting listen or read. I got advised it by my therapist as well, so it was something which I thought would be quite good. One of the other things I've done during therapy is done an events in time. So the events that's happened to me in my time writing down my story actually mentions it in there. And I'm going to start off by saying this poem. It's really important to acknowledge the bad times in your life and get them written down too, because you don't want to always write about your good things, because you wouldn't be you. You wouldn't be the person you are right now if you didn't have those bad times that happen in your life. Those bad times have helped create who you are today. Yes, you might not like 100% whom you are today, but I tell you what, it is who you are. And you, as bad as it sounds, have to deal with whom you are. And do you know what? You can change who you are. You can work on who you are, because you are not a rock structure which you've got to completely take down. You're still like clay. Until the day you die, you are clay, and every person who puts their hands on that clay changes its mold slightly, and you have the ability to mold that clay to the way you want it to be more and more. It's just depending on how you can do that for yourself and how effective people are around you to do it. We spoke about how people talk to each other and how people interact with the bad things, and they prefer to bring up the bad rather than the good about somebody, and how that would be better if they brought up the good. But I wanted to go through a little bit of my timeline, and just to comment on about why the bad is also equally as important as the good. Now, when I first did my timeline, I had so many bad things listed in there, and it was mostly bad. It took me a lot more to think of the good things. But I've led a life which a lot of bad stuff has happened to me. But it was interesting just to go through. Now, I will share the spreadsheet at some point. Maybe during mental health awareness, I'll share the spreadsheet that I've got in my Discord. But I will take out most of my details, and I'll just put, so you can have the chance to go through all these little bits and pieces, and I'll leave like notes and examples so you can see ways that you might be able to help yourself. And it is quite a cool spreadsheet anyway. Now I went through this, and there's a couple of categories on here. So the top one's like event, what it meant to me. And there's a couple for that, because there's like an event history thing which I will put up on screen in a moment. You'll see it on the YouTube video if I remember. That is, I should remember, hopefully. And then if it still affects me, was it good or bad, and if I still think about it, basically. But that's what I've done on here. And so, for example, from about the age of 10, I reference my upbringing and my childhood, which wasn't always the best in the world. And my parents would have openly put their hands up and admitted this, and they have, and I forgive them for it, as much as you do, you know? So if that's from about the age of 10 to 11. And then as you go down, I've got my events like leaving school, the Club Carez holiday that I went with school as well. Both good events. I enjoyed leaving school. School was not always for me, but I enjoyed school as a general rule. Then when I had to have a testicle removed and stuff like that, and that was bad. But if I hadn't have had that, I probably would have been more scared of hospitals. So now I'm not that scared of hospitals or operations, because you know what? I watched a film before I went into that operation, and it was like one of these films where it was based on an operation, and it was like, this is scary shit. And I went, and nothing went wrong during. Well, it kind of went wrong. They tell you to count down from 10, and when you get to 0 and you're looking at them and you're not asleep yet, that's scary. Also, my knee operation that I had, that was scary too, but I didn't have that fear, whereas I would have had a much greater fear of that operation if it wasn't for having the operation previously. And I think that's important. So that's a bad moment that has helped create a thought process in my head that operations aren't that bad. What's the worst thing that can happen? You don't wake up. Well, I guess that's kind of bad, but it's very, very unlikely for the operations that I've had. But there wasn't like massively complex operation. And then like I've got like the bad things, like where friends have tried to commit suicide, at a couple of them. And how they made me feel. And I think, again, working on this bad times matter idea, I think, honestly, if I hadn't have seen these events happen, I would have tried more times to take my own life. I think the fact that I saw my friends try to kill themselves gave me a much greater understanding of how it felt and how it feels and how everything around it made me feel, as the person discovering it. Yeah, that's not always going to help you. That these bad times aren't always going to help you. There's going to be times when these bad times that you've gone through don't help. But you've got to understand that out of all these bad times, the fact of the matter is you've survived every single one of them. You've survived 100% of your bad days. You've survived 100% of your most tragic of moments in your life, as well as your great ones. And it leads me to the other point, which I want to make with this. If you don't suffer these really bad emotions, if you don't suffer this sadness, this depression, then you're never ever going to value the good. You're never going to value the times when you're really, really happy. You're never going to value the times where you're like, actually, that was really good. Because if you've got flat, you've got no emotion, you've got nothing like that. So you've basically emotionless. And this is why I don't like the idea of tablets. Because I want to have emotion. I want to be able to feel the good and the bad. Because I don't honestly want to miss out on the good. Because the good feels oh so good. Yet the bad feels really shit. And I know that. But it's one of them things that if you don't think about these moments, these bad moments, don't get me wrong, don't dwell on them, don't sit on them forever. But they make you as a human being, and they make you understand the good stuff that goes on too. Now, I know sometimes it sucks, some of the bad stuff that's happened to us. I've been mugged twice. I've been left for dead. I've beaten to an inch of my life, bled all over a thing, and I'm sure I'll tell more about that story at one point. But it's one of them things that if these things hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't have been as interested in helping others. I wouldn't have been interested in trying to start a charity, and then instead of doing the charity, doing streaming instead, because I want some place for people to go to. I would never have done those kind of things if these things hadn't happened to me. So even though these things are really bad, they've made me who I am, and I'm proud of who I am to a degree, mostly. But could I have said that if I hadn't have had these bad moments? I probably couldn't. But I guess that's everything really, because like as I like look at stuff and I like feel like the ins and outs of this, it's really hard to put together about how important these feelings that you have are. Throughout this, you'd have seen like little charts coming up. Again, I'm going to quickly do it now after finishing this. That's like the charts that are in the graphs and everything, and like how much it invent history and stuff. But yeah, as I say, it's really important, and I'll end with this thought, and it's a question mainly, so answer down below. If there was a red button in front of you right now, whether you've had a great life, a bad life, or an average life, if there was a button that took all emotion away from your life, took all the bad stuff and all the good stuff, and removed all emotion from it, would you ever press that button? Just a question, really. I hope you have a fantastic one. I hope you stay safe and well and enjoy your evenings, mornings, or afternoons. Have a fantastic one. Goodbye.